Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Tottenham fan. And in today's video, we will be going through Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg and deciding whether he needs to be kept, loaned, or sold. And of course, today we have Jack. So, Jack, let's get into the fact file of Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg.
Let's talk about the brick house, Dave. I mean, it's an obvious keep, but we probably just have to give him a bit of the respect and a bit of the praise that he does deserve. 26 years old, actually joined the club, as we all know, 2 seasons ago during the Jose era. 18 million pounds was the original fee. He has now played over 100 matches already for Tottenham Hotspur, which is just insane. He's had 14 goal involvements, already more than Harry Winks in his career. Matches played 47 this last season, with 7 goals and assists actually in those 47 games played in all comps. For me, Hojbjerg, Dave, I mean, I'm just going to have to rattle off a few of the stats here that he finished off with. I believe, Dave, he had the most progressive passes at the end of the season. He had actually the most passes into the final third at the end of the season. I think he was like 3rd for like key passes or something like that at the end of the season. Some of his creative numbers were just absolutely absurd, Dave, leading in a lot of creative numbers for Spurs. He had the most pressures at the end of the day or at the end of the season, more than any other player. In fact, had almost 200 more pressures than the next person in line. Dave Hojbjerg, I think he actually had a fair amount of players dribble past as well. Yeah, he ranked 4th in the entire season with players dribble past in the squad. He was only 2 players dribble past behind Lucas. Dave, I mean, it was a spectacular season from Hojbjerg, I must say, leading in all the stats, being a leader both on and off the pitch. Is sort of a role model, I would say, for a lot of people. Is like the classic example of, he works hard, doesn't need the talent, all he needs is that work ethic. And to be honest, he's in kind of flying form as well. He's carrying it into the international break. And it almost makes me think, Dave, maybe if Hojbjerg, with the competition that's coming in with Basuma, Bentancur, Skip, maybe we're going to get an even better Hojbjerg next season, which is even crazy to think about.
Yeah, look, Jack, for me now, look, we have to be honest. We know that he is one that does split the opinion in the fan base. But the fact that Mourinho, Nuno, and Conte have all found him to be Mr. Reliable. Now, let me break it down under Jose Mourinho and then under Antonio Conte. Now, first of all, we all have to remember the reason why he was brought in here is because we had Ndombele in the midfield. But the lazy fucker wouldn't do any of the defensive side of work, wouldn't do any running. We lack that steal in midfield. We lack that bite, someone to clean up after this guy. That's why we went and bought Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg into this club in the first place, to add some steal, add some bite, and just some tackles in general, Jack, some presence in around that midfield. Now, he played every single minute of that season, every single game. At 38 games, completed 90 minutes every single game in the Premier League. He went on to feature in 54 out of our 58 matches that season under Jose in all competitions. He earned a lot of praise that season from the Spurs fan base as well. And he was also nominated for Premier League Player of the Month and was only 2nd behind Man City's Rodrigo in terms of completed passes that season. Then don't forget that he went on and backed that up with a phenomenal summer at the Euros with Denmark. Then we go into under Antonio Conte. This season again, Jack, a trusted member of Conte's team. He played 36 out of the 38 games this season in the Premier League. Obviously, some of them were under Nuno, and he only came off early twice. That was under Conte. That's it. Only Harry Kane has played more minutes this season than Hojbjerg. And Harry Kane and Hojbjerg have both made 50 appearances, with Ben Davies making 51, the only one at the club to make more appearances than Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg this season. Again, them 50 appearances across all competitions. Now, Jack, we have to remember he did start the campaign under Nuno. Then he did have that dip in form midway through the season. But then, Jack, he came back, finished the campaign strongly. And a lot of that does have to do with Bentancur also coming in, helping add that presence that wasn't there with the help that Hojbjerg was getting it in there at the time. And again, he's had a phenomenal international duty again come the end of this season. Now, a lot of the criticism comes from the fan base over his passing ability. Harry Winks' deficiencies were ignored, and it was put on to Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg this season now, Jack. But as we seen come the end of the season, he poured water on his deficiencies. With his passing, you go back to that assist against for Harry Kane against Leeds. Unbelievable. And since then, you've seen him switch play, lovely through balls in behind. In fact, the 2 games towards the end of the season, Brentford and Brighton, where we didn't create anything, the best chances created in them games, I think we created 2 against Brighton and I think another couple against Brentford.
Chances.
He actually was the one that created them chances, Jack. So for me, he's definitely poured water on what the fan base had doubts about this guy again. Now, after the Spurs' 5-1 demolition of Newcastle in the post-match press conference, Antonio Conte, these are his quotes: "I am seeing many players with great improvement. Also, Pierre. No one asked me about him, but I think in every game he is doing a fantastic job with the ball, without the ball, and strong physically." So he's a player that Antonio Conte really likes in his midfield. Antonio Conte is old school. He likes players that are good with the ball, off the ball, but also physical. Someone that could do it all. The way midfielders used to be when I was growing up watching them. This is what Conte wants in his midfielder, and this is what he brings. But Jack, I didn't know this till I went and done a bit of research, but he is part of the leadership group within the squad. You know, and I've seen many reports saying that his character within the squad, he constantly driving on his teammates in training. You see that on the pitch, Jack. You remember when Kulusevski scored towards the end of the season, and he was the first one to go over and talk to him about, look, get refocused. We need to continue. And then just a couple of also, actually, let's not forget the reports where I think it was Eric Dyer, first in the training ground in the morning and always last to leave as well. So he absolutely loves being at this club. We talk about leadership. He is setting the tone, setting the example. First one in, last one to leave. Now, a couple of stats from this season. He made 78 successful tackles, more than any other player at Tottenham Hotspur, Jack, placing him 9th in the tackle list overall in the Premier League. He also completed 2,531 passes, 6th in the Premier League, behind a lot of players like from Man City and Liverpool who play in possession-based teams. Considering the season we had, that is absolutely phenomenal. Look, I get he doesn't have the pace, the skills, Jack, that everyone wants in a player nowadays, but there's a number of components that make up a squad, Jack. Leadership is one of them. Setting examples, demanding more out of everyone else around you. All doing that whilst leading by example. And that's what he brings to this squad. Every top squad, that go on to win trophies, has players like Hojbjerg, who just has a good grounding, constantly driving people on around him, pulling the best out of people. But most of all, he gets that out of people. He gets that respect from people because he leads by example. So for me, Jack, with everything we've said here, it's a must keep for me. I know that he splits a lot of opinions, but his stats and the reports that come out about this guy, the leadership that we've seen from him on the pitch, for me, just tells me we have to keep this guy. He is a good grounding and a good base, like Harry Kane's son, for players coming into the club and the way they need to behave.
He's like
I said, just quickly, trusted under Jose, Nuno, and Conte. He's a mainstay at Tottenham. And I agree with you. I think Basuma coming in will elevate Hojbjerg to a new level. He's not one that will rest on his laurels.
No, he never has been, never will be. And Dave, I mean, go off, my son. Absolutely go off there on PEH. And to be fair, I think the last thing that I think Dave did sort of touch on that I think needs to be rammed home is just the fact that this was sort of like a season of, ups and downs with Hojbjerg. Not exactly with his form, because I mean, maybe there was 1 or 2 games in a row where he didn't really look too good. It was just like the opinion from the fan base. It was just so kind of toxic, or even just kind of back and forth between whether people seemed to think Hojbjerg was good enough for this team, whether they thought he was even the problem with this team. There were people that are accusing Hojbjerg of being sort of the issues of, kind of Spurs' sort of woes. And this was definitely kind of a big, I don't know how you say it, Dave, like a coming through season, maybe for Hojbjerg, where he was given all the praise that he deserved last season. But this season, people started to kind of knock him off that pedestal. And I think he rightfully, took it back, from them and showed them why he deserves to be in this team and why he's picked by every single manager, which you constantly rammed home, Dave, is that every manager picks this guy for a reason. He's not everybody's favorite player. He's not the sexiest player on the pitch by any means, but he is someone that feel like people probably take for granted, somebody that, people realize actually plays a bigger role than maybe they want to give him credit for. And so this was just a season of maybe Hojbjerg proving the doubters wrong. I think that's what I'm kind of saying, here. It's the season of Hojbjerg proving the doubters wrong.
No, 100%. And you hit the nail on the head. Not the most sexiest, but what he does do, he's efficient. And at the end of the day, How many times have we asked players like, okay, take your criticism on board, come back and prove us wrong.
Right.
But that's what Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg has done. We've had other examples where you can go the other way. Ndombele, Lo Celso, Dele Alli. But this guy, he sets a complete different example. Okay,
even when we thought that the criticism was unwarranted, even when we thought it was unfair, when we thought the criticism was unwarranted, you're right, Dave. He still took it and he, did something with it. Despite probably not even deserving the criticism, he took it and still did something with it.
It's clear to see that he's the backbone of every manager. The fact that he sets them examples. He's, along with others in the squad, but they're the people that there's a reason why they're rolled out so much. Harry Kane, Son, Hojbjerg, you add in that bracket. There's a reason why they're rolled out. Look, now I get he may have had that dip in form, Jack, but that dip in form was always going to come. A player that's always in shape, like Hojbjerg, a player that plays through injuries, like Hojbjerg, Jack. He played over 50 games this season, and he's played nearly every single game in the Premier League, even in the Europa League games or Europa League conference games where he's supposed to get in his rest. He was being hauled off the bench to come on and save the day and give us some presence in the midfield. Under Jose Mourinho, played every single minute, and there's a reason why, and it's because he's always ready to go, Jack. He's always in shape. He's dependable. Even when players aren't putting it in, he's the first one to call to come in. And what's made it even harder on the guy is the dip in form he did have came in correlation with when Harry Winks came into the team, was playing beside him. He's doing work for two people. He's already bollocks. We've already played him to his maximum, let alone he went deep in the Euros, comes back, not much of a break whatsoever, comes into a new season. Then he finds himself in beside Harry Winks and he's doing the work for two people. Yeah. He's going to be even more tired. But what I do like about it is he didn't complain, he didn't moan, he got on with the task in hand, and he formed a partnership with Bentancur coming in, who's helped him in the midfield. Absolutely. And since he's come on, he's gone on to flourish to a new level.
Bit of Hojbjerg love, everybody. I mean, who doesn't love that? I think at this stage, at the end of the season, whether you didn't like Hojbjerg going into it, you definitely have to at least respect him at the end of the season. So everybody, let us know what you think of Hojbjerg's season. Let us know what you think of this decision. Pretty obvious that we kept him, but, decide to, give him the praise that he definitely does deserve. Give him, a bit of a, Hojbjerg sort of love session. And so I think we've definitely appreciated that here and done that here. Everybody, as always, hit that like button on your way out. Feel free to drop a super thanks as well if you want to support the channel in any way whatsoever. Also, feel free to hit that subscribe button if you are new to the Irish Hotspur. But yeah, as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust.
Conte we trust.